What's up, everybody? Your favorite Turtles, favorite nerd. Today we are looking at Ironshell from TFC, which is their latest release and will form the body of Poseidon. He's a cool little turtle. At least I think so, anyway. He doesn't do a whole lot, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But what he does come with is a whole bunch of accessories, which we can go ahead and talk about now. He comes with these two units, which can combine for later on for his Ultra Mega staff kind of thing. Some silver paint on there, some rotating handles, and that's really all you got. And then he comes with this like staff thing. There seems to be some bizarre stuff going on. I'm not going to talk too much about this right now. I'm going to wait until combine mode because there may be just elements of this I don't quite get yet. But it comes apart in like 5 places. There's this rod that goes through the center of it. It comes with an additional rod and then 2 additional of these pieces. I'm just going to wait and see how this all shakes out before we talk about it. But the materials-wise and paint-wise, it all feels and looks good. And then for our last accessory, it comes with this gun. Has a little bit of that burgundy or maroon paint here and there. The barrel's actually a separate piece, and then that piece is a separate piece. And then he holds it. You can have him hold it this way too, like holding it underneath like it's a heavy gun, and then close that down. But I will say that just be careful. You got to put this in his hand and then close it around it. And it's an odd angle, and this is a very small little peg here. And you can see how it kind of has to, it's not a friendly connection. You see you got to push against it. So just be careful there, but it should work. And now we can talk about him. And there's a couple of things that we should talk about gimmick-wise. First of all, these things can rotate down, so you can have it that way, which looks like this from the top, or here and here. And then the cannons also come out a bit. You can rotate them, a little squeaky squeak, and then you can angle these out as well. Or if you want to have them up, you can angle them up and down. Your call. But it is cool that they are articulated. I do find that that's an extra touch that I wouldn't have necessarily considered, and I definitely wouldn't have assumed that TFC would have considered it. And then they also, you know, obviously they come out a little bit, so you can do like the old school, like boom, 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 boom sort of effect of shooting them. So that's pretty cool. Articulation-wise and whatnot, the tail does go a little up and down if you want that. I got a little scratch on my silver paint. I'm sure that's an individual results will vary kind of thing, but definitely be careful. And the head here is actually on a ball peg right there that comes to a hinge here. But if you use the hinge, you do destroy the sculpt. But it's not for some reason it doesn't bother me a whole lot. There's a sliding pin here, so if it is locked in position, you can pull it out a bit, and then it gets you a little bit of a back and forth, a little bit of an up and down. The head has an up and down, and then as you saw, the jaw does open, and the upper and lower jaws open. So pretty good range. Light piping on the eyes, you know, that's not my favorite, so I don't care for it, but it is there. Alrighty. So legs, I don't know how to say this. Let me think. So there's what you can do, and there's what you're supposed to do with some of this. So you have a double jointed knee basically here, and then you get a little bit of a swivel there as well, because it's a ball peg that pops into this socket here. And then the foot is on a ball peg. You get an ankle tilt up and down, and the slightest bit of the rocker on the ball peg itself. These are translucent claws here down at the bottom. My buddy Adam wanted me to mention that they do feel like claws because of the sculpt. You see how they like angle up at that angle? Let's see if you can see that. Right there, you see that one cut up? It does make it feel like real claws, and he wanted me to mention that, so mentioned. And then for the back legs, you can kind of like rotate them out to the side. You can start untransforming it and get your pieces out a little bit, and that goes for up here as well too, I believe. If you need to like cheat for a picture or something, you can probably cheat and get it accomplished. But as far as what it's actually supposed to do is just a tilt down, a little swivel side to side, and then once again a ball peg into the bottom foot with the slightest bit of a rocker. And that's pretty much it for this guy. Size comparison wise, he is a big fella. And there he is next to Tiger Tracks. To transform it, you want to pop the shell off. It tabs in 1, 2, 3, 4 places, right? I think there's like a slot here and a peg there. Just get that out of the way for now. Open up these back fins, so to speak. bring these down, and let me try to stay oriented here. Open this little flap there. That will allow you to pull this down. And we want that. I get confused. Let's open this up. Basically want to wrap this on top of itself. I think that's it. Let me make sure that that's right. Yeah, that's right. Rotate this around, and this just comes and sits down by the side. This they have you do later. I would go ahead and do it now. Close this. And then this sits, the green foot sits up against, and then the foot sits down there. So, same for this side. And you just want to make sure you're wrapping it right, so to speak. And then bring this down, I think. Spin this around, lay it down flat. Tab this in on the back, push the foot up and the claws against there, and then these pieces you want to spin 180. They kind of rotate funny on odd angles, but you just want it to be so that when you flip this down it all looks right. Your next step is to flip this turtle tail inside and then rotate just this middle section. Spins independently, and it's just kind of a pain to work it around, but you can do it. There. And just get these arms out of the way for now so that you can work. Then you take your turtle head, so to speak, flip it down, open up these little pink pieces in here, and then these side flaps here, and plug them in to one another, and make sure that the turtle tail is all the way up against the back of this as far as it will go. Otherwise you'll be fighting it all day. And then this piece flips down and grabs the back of the turtle head. Okay, so let's finish it off. We can put our arms back together now, and you may be able to do this without taking it apart. It just helps me to have the space to show you. Just close that up in there, and then put it down and rotate the combiner pegs out on both sides. You can pull this arm out if you need to, just to get it locked in. And then close that, and then combiner peg down. Alright, then take the backpack and take it down. It's got these two little flaps here, which seem a little excessive to hide the face, but you know what? I dig it. Open them up. Open up this flap here down at the bottom, and that will expose the head. And the head is not easy to get out, unfortunately. It's just an awful... There we go. That's the easiest I've had doing it of my 2 times so far. So close this up here, and then close this up in the back, and bring this up. These pieces will tab into there. The head neck tabs into there. And there you have him. And we'll extend that. And there he is. And I think he's fine. I think that this looks pretty spot on. Now, I have the legs closer because I think combiners look better when their legs are closer, like you just make the A stance. I'm not sure if that's going to be possible yet because I haven't obviously combined it, but if not, there is an additional ratchet joint there where you can go the more traditional route if you'd like. But yeah, I'm anxious to see how this sorts out because so far I have a good feeling about this. Like unlike the Hades one or the Lio Kaiser where I had a bad feeling almost from day one, I have a good feeling with this one. I do have like some weird scratches and sprue marks and cuts and stuff, but yeah, and you can articulate these, of course, to give the specific look you're looking for. But yeah, not too bad. Clean up this portion, which is just undoing what you did for combine mode, and then we got to get the this piece back around to the rear of the unit again. Now I've had a really hard time with this piece, but if you just give it a little bit of wiggle room, you should be able to get it out and then flip the head up and then close it back, and that should do it. Flip these pieces in, they may have already done so. So we got to spin the whole torso piece around. You want the basically the head and the feet facing the same way, so that should make sense to you. And then you want this, please, before you try to do this, make sure that this turtle shell, this rear end of the turtle shell, so to speak, is as far out as you can get it. So it's on the upper side of these two pink flaps. And then collapse the torso and bring this up. These pieces slot right into there, and that's on both sides, and then this piece comes down and latches onto the top, keeping it secure. These pieces, I think they just rotate back around and sit down underneath, and I think that that's all you got to do. I'll get them cleaned up and we'll take a look at them. Okay, so to try to move as swiftly through this as possible, he does hold these weapons. They do look ridiculous. They don't really seem to kind of make sense. And then if you, let's see, put this in there, and then close up the hand, and then try to get this underneath. He'll hold that as well, and you could probably work that a little bit better than the way I have it. If you really take your time and sort of go for it, because it will peg all the way together. And I'm sure if you were to manipulate these fingers, I'll tell you what, I'll try to pose them like that at the final thoughts, and we'll see if we can make it happen. We won't waste the time doing it on camera. So the head, we had this huge yellow light piping in the back, which is not, you know, that's not my thing, but that's what they've chosen. It's on a ball peg, as you can see. You do get a little bit of the hinge flap back, but really all that's intended is this limited up, limited down, and limited side to side. So that's not great either. Also, there's not a lot of paint on this fella. It's like all the paint is on the back, which will transfer over to combine mode, so maybe that's okay, but the bot mode does end up looking a bit more plain than the other two, as you'll see here shortly. Waist swivel is intact, no paint on the chest whatsoever, just these three translucent pieces and this green piece of plastic to kind of break up the sculpt. Outside of that, nothing. We have a ratcheted hinge here that gets you up to almost 90 degrees, and then this piece here is on a ratchet as well. A really nice ratchet, I might add. So that all works really well, given the sculpt. You got a little bit of paint here, and that's it. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, gets you just a little bit past 90 degrees. With a wrist swivel, fingers, you have one pin through the base knuckle, but the index finger articulates independently with an additional hinge at the second knuckle, which I don't think I've seen KFC do before. TFC do before, and that's a nice switch. Waist swivel, we talked about that, right? Other arm articulates the same. We have universal joints for hips. They're ratcheted, of course. You get a hard ratchet all the way up that holds like a champ. You get all the way back as well, and all the way out to the side. And those ratchets are money. They work really well. No thigh swivel, but you do get it at the knee, so that kind of works. The knee hinge is also ratcheted and gets you 90 degrees. No paint for the pelvis, no paint for the thighs. The only paint that you get is this little bit of silver that isn't even finished. See, it doesn't hit all the lines along the way. So that's a bit of a bummer. And then you get this translucent green down here at the bottom. Ankles, you get a little bit of a tilt up, a great tilt down. And the rocker is, well, it's okay. So, like, because you just have to manipulate it to get around it. It'll work just fine. The feet are a little strange. The feet on all these guys have been a little strange. That's been a design choice, it almost seems like, at this point. Back of the figure cleans up fairly well. You know, he's got a huge backpack, but it's not terrible, given what this guy is. So, all in all, he's efficient, if not flashy. So there he is with those other two that are out, and I think it's shaping up pretty well. They look cohesive, which is to say that the things that kind of work for the set and the things that don't work for the set are pretty much par across the board. So the positives to that are obviously that the things that do work, like the color choices and the sort of general aesthetic and sort of design choices, all seem cohesive. And the negatives, of course, are the things that kind of plague this set, like lack of paint and stuff like that, you know, ends up also spilling across the board as well. Final thoughts wise, as you can see, he can have his gun pegged in completely with no problem. It just takes some fiddling. But let's get through the negatives. So my major negatives, actually, while we're on the topic of accessories, are the accessories. I think that this other thing is really silly looking. This thing that he holds, now I know it's not really meant for him. I get it, it's meant for the combine mode. But if they would have had this where it could swivel all the way down to the bottom and he could hold it like an axe or a sword, I think that would have been a nice touch. My other big complaint is lack of paint. The lack of paint on this guy really makes this guy look toyish. I know some of you guys know what I mean when I say that. I know some of you guys don't, but I don't know how else better to express it. Some of you guys know what I mean when I say that. I know some of you guys don't, but I don't know how else better to express it.
Well, it is a toy.
But it's not like a toy. You know, it's not like a toy you buy at the toy store.
Well, it's definitely a toy you would buy at a toy store.
No, you wouldn't buy it at a toy store. It's like a collectible. It's like a collectible, not like a toy.
Where did you buy it?
At GCI Toy.
Where do you buy all of your stuff?
215 Toys, Big Bad Toy Store.
It's a toy.
The lack of finish paint everywhere on this fella. It's got no pizzazz. It feels like, you know, it feels like you could buy this from a Target. You know, in terms of the way it looks. Obviously, Target doesn't carry a figure that's kind of on this level, but it looks as, I'll tell you, the figure is on a level that is higher than what it presents itself as. Does that make sense? But all in all, this figure is really well done. I think that the accessories and the paint are the biggest hindrances, and outside of that, the transformation is pretty fun and enjoyable and relatively straightforward. There's a couple things that kind of get annoying with having to move the backpack around and having to kind of move all the moving bits in and out of himself. He's a big blocky guy, so some of it gets in his own way sometimes and stuff like that. But it's not to the point where it's not enjoyable. The articulation is great. All the materials feel fantastic, especially the hardware. All the ratchets and stuff feel really good. It gives me a very optimistic feeling about the combine mode. I have a good feeling about the combine mode. This is like my anti-Hades. You know, as soon as I looked at one of those leg bots from Hades, I was like, yeah, I don't know, Mac. But with this one, I was like, you know, maybe. And now that I've seen the bot, I have a very good feeling about it. I'm quite optimistic. You know, I don't combine anything until I get them all together, and I do it for the first time on camera. So it'll be a while still before I get to take a look at them, but I'm feeling good about it. So yeah, I like the aesthetics, I like the materials, I like the transformation, and I like the articulation. I do recommend it if you're in for the set. I can't recommend the set yet because I don't know if it works, but you know, once I do, I'll let you know right here on this channel. So, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.